Let's be honest with each other for a second. You've done the strict diets. You've dragged yourself out of bed for the 5 a.m. workouts. You've sat through enough cardio to start quietly negotiating with your own willpower halfway through. And your belly is still sitting exactly where it was. Same shape, same stubbornness, same quiet refusal to go anywhere. Here's the part almost nobody will say out loud. The problem isn't your discipline, and it isn't your effort. You've just been fighting the battle in the wrong place. Stubborn belly fat isn't really won or lost in the gym. A surprising amount of it gets decided in the first few minutes after you open your eyes, while you're still half asleep trying to remember what day it is. Because every single morning, before you eat, before you train, before you've even stood all the way up, your body starts setting the tone for how it treats fuel for the rest of the day. Does it reach for stored fat and spend it? Or does it tuck that fat away around your organs and stand guard over it? A big part of that decision runs through one hormone, cortisol, the most blamed, most misunderstood, most over-dramatized hormone you've got. And before we go any further, I want to be fair to it, because cortisol is not the cartoon villain the internet makes it out to be. You actually need it. It wakes you up. It pulls energy into your bloodstream. It keeps your blood pressure steady. It helps you respond to challenges. Without it, you'd struggle to get off the couch, let alone out the door. So here's the more honest version of the story. The moment you wake, your body produces a sharp, deliberate rise in cortisol. Researchers call it the cortisol awakening response, and people like Angela Clow have spent years mapping it. It's supposed to happen. Energy, alertness, focus, get the human moving. The trouble isn't that the spike exists. The trouble is what your morning does on top of it. You grab the phone before your eyes have focused. You read a work message in bed. You skip water, slam coffee on an empty stomach, and rush around like the building's on fire. Your brain doesn't know it's just a Tuesday. It only reads signals, and those signals say stress. So a normal, healthy morning rise turns into a cortisol level that stays elevated for hours when it should have been gently tapering down. And chronically elevated cortisol is where the fat storage problems actually start, particularly with visceral fat, the deep belly kind that wraps around your organs. This is where it gets almost unfair. Visceral fat is unusually sensitive to cortisol. It carries a high density of glucocorticoid receptors, as it expresses an enzyme called 11-beta-HSD1 that quietly reactivates cortisol, right inside the fat tissue itself. The Swedish researcher Per Bjorntorp spent much of his career showing how tightly stress hormones and deep abdominal fat are linked, and work from researchers like Alyssa Eppel has connected cortisol reactivity to fat stored around the midsection specifically. The takeaway is uncomfortable but useful. The more chronic stress signaling you produce, the more your body is biased toward holding on to exactly the fat you're trying to lose. You can eat clean, train hard, do almost everything right, and a string of chaotic, high-stress mornings can quietly tilt the whole hormonal environment against you. It probably won't erase a perfect day in one go, but over weeks it shifts the balance. Now zoom out for a second, because there's a clue hiding in plain sight. Look at Japan. Rice with most meals, noodles, the exact carbohydrates that half the Western diet industry tells you to fear like they've got a personal grudge against you. And yet Japan has one of the lowest obesity rates in the developed world. So what's going on? Now, I'll be fair here, because it's not one single thing. Portion sizes are smaller, people walk far more as part of daily life, and the food culture leans toward less processed meals. But a calmer, slower start to the day is part of that picture too. When mornings aren't a low-grade panic, cortisol behaves, and when cortisol behaves, your metabolism is more willing to spend stored energy instead of hoarding it. It isn't a magic tea or a secret superfood. A lot of it comes down to a nervous system that doesn't wake up convinced there's a predator in the room. So let's actually fix the morning. 5 steps, each with a real mechanism behind it. No detox theater and no melt fat overnight nonsense. Your liver, by the way, has no interest in your wellness aesthetic. Step 1. Water before coffee. You just spent 7 or 8 hours without a sip of anything, and you were breathing the whole time, which quietly loses water too. By morning, your blood is a little thicker, and your heart is working a touch harder just to move it around, and that mild stress alone can nudge cortisol upward before you've done a single thing wrong. The adrenal glands that produce cortisol also rely on minerals, especially sodium and potassium, to function well, and plain water doesn't fully top those up. So before you touch the espresso machine, drink a full glass of room temperature water with a small pinch of sea salt and a few drops of lemon. No ritual, no ceremony, just calmly rehydrating. What you're really doing is sending a quiet message upstairs that the system is fueled and there's no emergency. The nervous system unclenches a little, and you've stepped out of stress mode before the day has technically begun. If this is already making more sense than the last fitness video that just yelled at you to eat less and move more, that's exactly the point. So stick around, because the next one is the step most people get completely backwards. Step 2. Get into real morning light. Deep inside your brain sits a master clock with a name only a scientist could love, the suprachiasmatic nucleus. It governs your cortisol rhythm and your sleep-wake cycle on the same schedule. When that clock drifts, cortisol tends to stay flat and elevated all day instead of rising and falling cleanly, and you end up in that horrible state of being exhausted and wired at the same time. Tired body, anxious brain, can't nap, can't focus. Circadian researchers like Satchidananda Panda have shown just how strongly daily light exposure anchors that whole system. Your kitchen lights can't do this, and your phone screen definitely can't. Only real outdoor light carries the intensity and the mix of wavelengths needed to set that internal clock properly. Within the first 30 minutes or so of waking, step outside for 5 to 10 minutes. No sunglasses, no scrolling, just letting daylight reach your eyes. What you get is a clean, healthy morning cortisol rise, followed by a slower, more controlled decline through the rest of the day. Serotonin lifts, which later helps your body produce melatonin at night, so you also sleep better. Light first, and a lot of your biology quietly lines up on its own. Step 3. Hold off on the coffee for a while. Roughly 90 minutes, give or take. I know, stay with me. While you sleep, a compound called adenosine builds up in your brain, and it's a big reason mornings can feel like wading through wet sand. Your brain naturally clears a good chunk of it in the first hour or so, after you wake. The idea, popularized by neuroscientist Andrew Huberman, is that if you slam caffeine at minute 4, it doesn't remove adenosine. It just sits on the receptors and blocks them temporarily while the adenosine waits in line behind it. You get a spike, then a crash, and the crash can hit harder because now you've got the original tiredness plus a caffeine dip on top, which is a recipe for cravings and an 11A. Hunt for something sugary. I'll be straight with you that the evidence here is more about energy and avoiding the mid-morning slump than a proven fat loss effect, so treat it as a comfort upgrade rather than a magic lever. Wait a bit, let some adenosine clear, let your natural cortisol curve do its thing, and the coffee lands on a calmer system. Same coffee, different timing, noticeably smoother energy. Step 4. Walk, don't sprint. This is where people get it exactly backwards. They wake up underslept, underfueled, and already stressed, then go punish themselves with a brutal 6 a.m. session in the name of discipline. But if your body is already running in stress mode, intense training just stacks more stress on top. Cortisol climbs higher. Your body reads the whole experience as further evidence that something's chasing you, and it leans harder into storage. You sweat, you suffer, and the scale shrugs. Hard training absolutely has its place, but timing and recovery matter, and a body stuck in chronic stress isn't the one to hammer first thing. The smarter opening move is almost insultingly simple. Walk outside for 10 to 15 minutes. There's also a gentle mechanism people point to here called optic flow, the smooth, steady drift of the world past your eyes as you move forward. Some research suggests this kind of lateral visual motion has a calming effect on the brain's threat circuitry, the amygdala, essentially signaling that you're moving through a safe environment and nothing is hunting you. I'll be honest that this particular link is still a softer area of the science, so I wouldn't oversell it, but a calm morning walk lowering perceived stress is well supported on its own. Less threat signaling, lower cortisol, easier access to stored fat. Walking will never trend online, and it will quietly outperform the workout you dread. Step 5. Leave the phone alone for the first 30 minutes. This one costs you nothing, and it's the one almost everyone fails before their feet even hit the floor. The instant that screen lights up, your brain takes a hit of dopamine, comparison, urgency, news, and 3 opinions you never asked for, all before your eyes have fully focused. Your nervous system reads it as a flood of input. Cortisol jumps, the fight-or-flight side quietly switches on, and your fat-storing environment gets locked in for the morning before you've even had breakfast. Give that first half hour back to yourself, deliberately quiet and a little boring. Your parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest side, needs undisturbed time to set a calm tone. Protect that window and cortisol stays where it should. And lower, well-timed cortisol is the environment where your body is actually willing to spend stored fat instead of guarding it. Morning calm isn't a vibe, it's just biochemistry with a better reputation. So here's the whole sequence. In order, no fluff. Wake up and leave the phone alone, and let your brain come online without notifications shoving it around. Drink a full glass of water with a pinch of sea salt and a few drops of lemon. Adrenals first, caffeine later. Get outside within the first half hour for 5 to 10 minutes of real daylight in your eyes. Walk gently for 10 to 15 minutes and let that steady forward motion settle your nervous system. Then wait around 90 minutes for the first coffee so it lands on a stable system instead of a panicking one. No supplement, no miracle powder shipped from a place you can't pronounce. Just removing the invisible stressors that have been quietly working against your fat loss this whole time. Fix the morning, and fat loss stops feeling like a daily fight and starts behaving more like a side effect of doing a few simple things right. Try this exact sequence tomorrow, just one morning. Notice how hungry you actually feel at lunch, how your energy holds at 3 in the afternoon, and how you sleep that night. Your body will give you feedback faster than any scale will. Now, I'm genuinely curious which of these 5 is going to be hardest for you to stick to. The phone one? The 90-minute coffee delay? Tell me in the comments. I read them. And if this made your mornings make a bit more sense, subscribe and stick around, because we keep pulling apart this hidden logic with sleep, hormones, digestion, and cravings, all the things your body is doing on purpose, even when it feels like it's working against you.